Welcome back to the download with Sara Connell. I'm so thrilled that you are here today and we are going to have a fabulous time. Hello, all of you jumping on live for this next edition of the download. I'm so happy to see you. So happy to start this week. If again you're watching or joining us on the day that we're filming, it is a Monday. We are going to get fired up. We're going to get a high vibe. We're going to get in the zone to get some amazing downloads and have a phenomenal week together. I do have a guest who is scheduled to be joining me today. And so I'm going to prep us for that conversation once I see that she has popped on. But in the meantime, let's all take a breath together. Just doing an in through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth, breath. Do a couple rounds of breath. See if we can just regulate our nervous systems just a little bit more together to prime our brain for downloads and get ready to have an awesome conversation with the amazing Fabi Paolini. I'm so excited. And Fabi, you can correct me if I've mispronounced your last name. I'm really fired up because you actually, everyone, you're going to meet Fabi in a moment, and she is just an absolute brilliant leader, brilliant thought leader, amazing force in the world of branding and all the things. There we go. Hello, love.
Hello, I made it.
You made it. It's perfect. I was just saying, I was already very excited to have you on the show today. And then when I got the email that you sent out, and this was just an email to your community and to your list, but I'm on that, and talking about some trends that you're seeing and what's working now in terms of thought leadership and sales and content creation and how it's different
Mhm.
than even probably a couple months ago. So I sort of almost want to make that the focus of what we talk about, if that's
Yeah.
okay with you, because it's of the moment. And here at the download, we like knowing, what's going on, doing some forecasting, making sure that we are tuned in to what people need in the moment, how to be of greatest service. And so first, would you share with everyone where you live, what you do? Let's just like start this conversation so people know the incredible gift that
Yeah,
they're having by meeting you today.
absolutely. Well, super happy to be here. I am in Doral, Florida. That's where I'm at. We're close. I think you're in Florida
Well, I
too.
feel like I live in Florida because I'm in Florida all the time for it. I live in Chicago, but
That's
I
true.
seem to always be coming to Florida. I'll be there in 2 weeks. I'll be there again a month later. So it's
That's
honorary
why.
home.
That's why. Perfect. Well, I'm originally from Venezuela, but I have lived here in Miami for the last 11 years. I am basically a brand strategist, and what my focus is I work with people who are already pretty amazing at what they do. Coaches, consultants, experts, they're great. They're incredible at what they do, but they're basically underselling themselves
Right.
and not really communicating their full value. I feel like maybe 10 years ago, you could get by being amazing, and that's all you needed to be able to bring in clients. But in today's world, even bringing referrals is hard if the message is not clear, because how do I refer you somebody if I don't know? Well, why is it that they need to work with Sarah, or why do you need to work with this person and that person? And so what I help people do is get very clear on who their buyers actually are. And I'm not talking about like ideal client avatar exercises. I'm talking about like really understanding buyer behaviors.
Yeah.
I help them come up with what I like to call their angle of mastery, which is basically, what is your angle? What is your perspective? How are you going to communicate what makes you different? And then the last thing is looking at what you do and how do we turn it from a nice to have into a need to have. And so a lot of the work that I do is basically around communication and being very strategic and intentional with what we're saying about what you do in
This
in a nutshell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is so huge. I mean, that's why I wanted to have you on, because we're in a series right now where we're talking about, women starting movements and men and, every leaders starting movements. We're talking about differentiation. We're
Mhm.
talking about the importance of messaging and letting people understand. We could call it our brand, right? However we want to define it. So let's talk about in what you already shared with us. I'm already gonna guess, and maybe we'll do it like a little quiz, see if I get this right. If I was gonna guess the top 3 mistakes you see experts making,
Mhm.
based on what you just shared with us in the work that you help them do. Number 1, it sounds like their problem is a nice to have, not a need to have.
Exactly. That's probably one of the top ones.
right?
And mind you, everything is a need to have or a nice to have depending on how you communicate it, right?
Exactly.
Like
Ex
I always say, like, for, certain people, a $50,000 Hermes bag is a
right,
need to have, right?
right.
Period. But what happens often with coaching, I would say in particular, but with a lot of different things, is that the way that we communicate about what we do sounds like a nice to have. And nice to haves are like, okay, well, after I renovate the kitchen, after I bring in another client, after I launch my book, after I, it's an endless, like, you keep deferring it. Need to have is like, I can see how this is something that's going to solve the problem that I have right now. I
Yes.
need that. Let's go. So
Let's
that's kind of the difference essentially.
Huge. It's huge. So that's like the probably the number one mistake that many of us make is that we aren't positioning what we do as a must have right now, a need
Mhm.
to have. It'd be nice when everything lines up and nothing ever
Exactly.
is the time when everything. That's going to be a small percentage. Okay, amazing. And so we'll spend the crux of our time kind of talking about what you're seeing and what you talk
Mhm.
about, like selling off a Google sheet. And there's some cool stuff that you're training people on right now. It sounds like another mistake we make is we don't differentiate. So even if our service is a need to have, why us versus
Exactly.
someone
So
else that does what
what
we do?
happens is that people don't know how to differentiate themselves. And the way that they do it, especially when there's a lot of experience, is by saying, hire me because I have this methodology. Hire me because I worked at a Fortune 500 company, or I've had 100 clients, or I have a million followers,
Right,
or I've done these things.
right.
And so they're all very like external credentials. Hire me because of these external things. But in the world that we live in, all of those things could be beat at. Oh, I worked at a Fortune 500. I worked at a Fortune 50. Oh, I have a master's degree. Well, that person has 3 PhDs. Like, there's always something that somebody could say that they're better at if
Mm,
we're using external metrics to be able to differentiate ourselves. However, what can't be replicated is your perspective. That's what I call your angle of mastery. What is your angle? What is your approach? And sure, yes, that comes from your PhD, your master's degree, or the company that you worked at, or whatever, like, it comes from all of that. But all of those things and your past and your childhood and like all of these pieces that make you who you are, they've given you a very specific way of looking at the problem. And here's the other one, Sarah, that I see often is like the things that people instinctively, quote unquote, instinctively say that they're good at. Like, well, I just know. I'm just good at it. I don't know how or why. I'm just good at, like, it's just something that I know. When the reality is that that thing that you think is just instinct, sure, it's instinct, but it can be named. There's a reason why it's instinct. And all of those are things that you need to use in your messaging in order to be able to communicate what makes you different. So that's what I feel people make mistakes about. Like, they're just using these external things. Like, I do NLP. Well, you and a million other people. Like, what else? Why do I hire you? So,
This
yes.
is super cool. I almost think like these two nuggets alone. I know some people are already who are in the live audience are saying, "Oh, this is a great distinction." It really is. Like distinction number one is making sure your service is positioned in a way that someone understands, not that you understand, that they understand
Mhm.
must have, need to have versus a nice to have. And then number two, that you are very clearly identifying like the perspective lens with all the great expertise. And in journalism, they call it the shiny baubles, right? The cool
Mhm.
places you presented, the time in the field, your degrees, like you said, all your professional and
Mhm.
expertise. And so making sure that someone often doesn't overlook, which is why they work with you, Fabi, right? Because people overlook the thing that just feels like the natural. Well, that's just easy to me. And yet, if you named it something, called it a method, and put it at the front of, powered by, this thing, that is the thing that other people think it doesn't come naturally to me. That's what they're going to come to you for as the expert,
Exactly.
not
And
just the result you get them.
right. And you want to be known for something, right? It can't just be like, oh, I'm going to hire you because you're going to help you. Let's say in my case, you're going to help me with messaging. Well, there's a million people that can help you with messaging. But the only person that talks about angle of mastery, that talks about power buyers, that my whole thing is around turning what you do from a nice to have into a need to have is mine. And that comes from my childhood, my upbringing, the way that I learn things from the work that I do, the clients, like me developing entire systems around everything that makes it very unique and different. And ultimately, that's what we want to do. It's like, how do we come up with things and how do we communicate what we do so that it really feels different, essentially?
So cool. I love this because I was gonna say, can you give us an example? But then you gave the example of how
Yeah,
you
well, I have another good one. I have a
Yeah,
good
tell us
one for you.
another one.
Okay. So, this is my one of my favorite ones to share. So, I have a client that I work with who is a therapist and coach. And so her messaging in the beginning was very much therapist speak. Like, I'm going to help you with your attachment styles.
Mhm.
But first of all, not everybody like attachment styles, there's lots of people that teach that. But secondly, when you talk about like hire me because I'm going to help you fix your attachment styles or whatever, that's your perspective of the problem, not the audience's perspective. Their audience is not thinking, I just wish that I was more whatever they are, right? Like more secure. I wish I was less avoidant. That's not what they're thinking about. And
Right.
so the first thing that we need to do is really land the problem so that it's very clear to the buyer while you're revealing your expertise. So for example, with her, we moved from a message that was like very much like, I'm going to help you
Right.
fix your attachment style to thinking, okay, what if we talk about the problem in a different way? And we came up with this idea of the success driven heartbreak cycle. And the idea behind it, and she goes in obviously to explain what this is that the more successful a woman is, the more likely that she is to attract the wrong partner because essentially
Mm,
she's great at problem solving, she's great at fixing things, and therefore that's exactly who she attracts. And so what we did is built a whole message around, well, here's what's actually happening, what the problem is. And then we've built an angle that serves as the antidote for that. And really like, this is the solution to that problem. So we're making the problem feel like it's landing in a different way. We're giving insights, but then the solution, that angle of mastery, her approach to how she solves it is like how we break that cycle, essentially, if that makes sense.
I mean, you guys, I hope everyone take like how do we see the difference? I know I can so vividly see the difference between if I saw a post about a therapist saying, "Hey, I help people with their attachment styles," where 99% of people don't know what that even means, or maybe you vaguely would get
Exactly.
like, "Oh, whatever," versus the success, love. What did it come down to? The success, like
The success driven heartbreak cycle.
right? And think about that's the person who says, "I'm a successful person and I keep having heartbreak in relationships." And now we made it about them. And when I was doing NLP, funnily enough, when I was being trained in that, it was like you have to get on their map. You've got to get on the person's map
Exactly.
and their ecology map, their psychology map. And so
Mhm.
that's what you just did there. That is brilliant. Talk to us. So that's how you come up with like the angle, right? What's a power buyer? Let's talk
Okay, so for me, power buyers, and this to me is like one of the biggest things that people need to understand. Okay. For me, a power buyer is the type of person who is actually ready to invest in solving the problem. So, what I always say to people is that just because somebody has a problem, it does not mean that they're ready to invest in solving it, right? You can have people who are gonna spend the rest of their lives, um, you know, with a problem and be okay with it. So what we need to think about is like, okay, who is my buyer or who are those power buyers and how do they experience the problem? How does it show up for them? Because it's very different mentally or even like externally, oh, actually both like internally and externally, how the problem shows up when you're actually ready to buy versus when you're not. Because typically when you're not ready to buy, again, your behaviors are different. You're going to approach the problem different. You're going to see yourself different. Whereas when somebody's a buyer, there's different things that they're already investing at. There's things that they're doing. There are things. Here's my example. Okay, I'm going to give you the example because I feel like it's always easier. So when we talk about weight loss, for example, the typical way that people communicate would be to say, you're overweight, you've tried so many diets, nothing has worked, you're frustrated with your body, you're frustrated with how you look, and you feel like nothing is working, your metabolism is broken. So that description that I just gave tells me the problem, but it tells me nothing about the person. I could be talking to a mom, a dad, a teenager, an 80-year-old woman. Like we could be talking to anybody. There's no context around identity. And we're talking a lot about emotions and feelings around the problem. But in reality, we're not saying what the problem is. So I'll give you the alternative so that you see what I mean. A power buyer, or the way that I would communicate to a power buyer, would be to say, you're a high level executive, you're constantly speaking on stage in front of hundreds of people, and yet you spend an hour in your closet every single morning trying on dress after dress after dress because nothing fits and you're overweight. And instead of like hyping yourself up and prepping for your presentation and getting ready so that you can nail it, you're worried about what you look like and how you feel in your body.
Yes.
So now the problem is clear. Now the drive behind why I need to solve it is clear.
Yes.
Even like I could go even deeper about like what they've tried, what they haven't tried, the
Sure.
solution, all the things. But now
Sure.
I mix identity with the problem and the emotion. All of those things are much clearer. So
Huge.
that's the idea there.
And we know that identity, those of you that train with me, you've heard me say this for years and years and years, identity drives behavior. It is the driver of all behavior. So if
Mhm.
someone's able, and I went to a like messaging workshop years ago, and the biggest thing I took away was someone, you explained it even better, but they were talking about the psychology and even the subconscious programming. When you feel like someone is talking directly to you,
Mhm.
you immediately believe them, trust them, and think they have the answer. Because like, "Whoa, Fabi knows me so well. She knows that I'm getting to get out on stage and I'm getting derailed in my closet, and then I'm spending this energy feeling bad about myself instead of feeling excited and pumped up about what I'm gonna go teach and train." And so, this is huge, right? Yes, are you repelling the people that aren't that person, that power buyer? But you don't care, that's who you want. That's who you're here to serve, right? So, if you said, if I said, if you're a thought leader who's been in business for at least a year. You know you're amazing at what you do, and you're just getting started on Substack. There's a percentage of you here in our audience who are going to think, "Oh, Sarah and Fabi are talking about me,"
Exactly.
and then the percentage of you that's like, "Oh, that doesn't apply." But like, even though it feels like a one-to-one piece of communication, even though it's can be spoken to a group through a book, through a podcast, through an email, through whatever it might be. So I love this so much. So everyone, we've got 3 nuggets today, big nuggets, talking about, is your problem a nice to have, the thing that you solve, or do people understand it's a need to, must have? And then 2, are you differentiating yourself through your own angles, frameworks, unique perspectives, not just your credentials of what you've done? And then 3, do you know who your power buyers are? The people you most, we could say your avatar, your dream client, whoever you want to work with most. And are you actually on an identity level
Mhm.
speaking to them? Because if you're not, it just becomes, like you said, you could be talking about anyone at any age, any person that no one feels, it's not a magnet in the same way. This is, what have you seen happen for some of these people that you've taken from the therapist who had the very jargon,
Mhm.
clinical description of her work to a successful heartbreak cycle?
Yeah, well, so for me, the biggest thing is there's lot of things that happen, right? The first thing is immediate differentiation, right? Like it sounds different from everybody else, and because of that, you stand out in the market. But one of the most interesting things that has happened to the majority of the clients that we work with is that suddenly the content, the emails, like everything that they're putting out, suddenly the right people are raising their hands. So sometimes we have people quietly following you for years who don't move, don't take action, don't book calls with you, don't become clients because they think that the work that you do isn't exactly for them. But when the message shifts and you're speaking to the buyer and not calling, I actually call it you're not being the Ursula speaking to the poor unfortunate soul. That's what I call it. Like, so you're not being that Ursula and you're not just like talking about how horrible it is and the pain and the bleeding neck, all of that, but you're speaking to the smart type of person who's ready to invest.
Mm,
Suddenly they raise their hand. So oftentimes people think, well, I need to grow my audience. I need to go viral. I need more visibility. I need more leads. When the reality is, it's not that you need more leads. You have them already within your ecosystem. What you need is to speak to the right people so that they come to you. But what happens is that there's a massive blind spot, especially because of AI. Mind you, I am a user of AI. I love it as long as you have fed it the right thing in the beginning. And so because people are over relying on AI right now, everybody sounds the same. Because if I were to say, "Hey, Claude, I am a brand strategist.
right.
Write my content for me for the next week." What it's gonna do is it's gonna look at the whole internet and see, "Okay,
Exactly.
what's the average of what everybody is saying? Let me say that." And so
Yes.
if everybody's saying the average, well, then it's like, okay, you're creating more noise, but you're not different. And
Oh my
so
god.
you need
It's
to come
such a
up 100% with what is your angle? Why you? There's a million versions of you out there, like little clones. Why you? How do you communicate what you do so that it sounds different? And so what happens when you do that is that everything like the conversions go up, you get more referrals. People that were already quietly on your email list suddenly are like, "Oh, I'm here. I'm here. This is for me. Like you're waking them up and you're calling them in essentially.
It's huge. It's so big right now. Let's switch before we let you go to what you sent out in your email to your
Yes.
today.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so and however you wanna set this up, obviously, I'm on your email list, so that's why I was like, "This is such perfect timing." I'm reading Bobby's email, but you're talking about selling differently, and this just takes it a step further of an application, I'm guessing,
Hmm.
of
Yeah.
this email. So, yeah, set it up.
Yeah. So basically, the big thing that I've really noticed this year, which has been very interesting, is that people don't want information right now. They want execution. And so what I mean with that is that we all like now if information was available before, now we're drowned in it. And like we have 27 chats open up on Claude or Chat GPT or whatever telling us of all the things that we need to do, but not enough at times like well what do I prioritize how do I actually how do I actually get this done even if AI is telling you exactly step by step how to do it. It's it's so much information, it becomes overwhelming. And so, basically, what I did in my own business is I put out an offer that was like, "Oh, I'm gonna test this out just to see what happens," right? Like, let me put this Google Doc together and send
Mhm.
out this email with 5 spots open for an offer that was all about executing things for people, helping them take all of the things that are undone, unfinished in their business or ideas that they have, and have the discernment of, from that external perspective of like, okay, here's what we actually need to do. Here's what's actually going to move the needle out of all of these ideas. Let's put them together and let's go. So initially, it was 5 spots. They sold out within 24 hours. So I was like, okay, let me open up a couple more. Again, like really quickly, sold out. And so eventually, what we did is we closed it at 10, but it was less than a week. Like it was the easiest way to make sales in the world. But I think that the lesson behind that is how much people want execution.
Yes,
They don't need more information. They want more of the actual transformation and things done for them. And so
yes,
I think it's important for you to think about your specific business and think about, well, what can I offer that is not competing with AI? Like we need to understand that this is part of the world right now. How do
yes,
we leverage it in a way so that people can feel like we're supporting it? And this works across every single space or niche, I would say. But it's about finding what your version of helping people execute looks like. And
yes.
that's what makes what I see is working really well right now.
Okay, so everyone, literally, you could for the rest, you just have your week laid out for you, all of us. Okay, Fabi has given us what we're going to think about in terms of the way we get to start messaging with identity and unique angles, differentiation, important must have, not nice to have, and then now the kicker is going to be what can you offer this week to the people you serve, and that is about execution, not information and learning something. Okay.
Exactly.
It's huge. I love this. I'm so grateful that you shared these things with your community and you came in here to share them with us. When people want to know more, they want to be like, where can I follow you, Fabi? Where can I read more? Where can I learn more? Where can I, get on your email list? Like, what's the best way for people to
Yeah.
follow up with you?
I'm kind of getting started on Substack, so I'm pretty new at it, but please subscribe and follow me. I'm beginning to put out content.
Yeah.
But the best way to get in touch is I do these 15-minute calls with people. This is not a sales call. I won't pitch you anything on the call. This is literally a diagnostic call. So,
Yeah.
what I do on the call is I take a look at your messaging, whether that is a website, whether that is your LinkedIn profile, whether that is your Instagram, whether that is whatever you have, a sales page or your Substack. I take a look at how you're communicating and I show you, hey, you know what? Here, this is where you're being the Ursula and you haven't noticed it. Because what happens with the Ursula thing, by the way, is that people speak to the wrong people and they don't even notice it.
Right.
So I show you the blind spot. I think that this is where your angle of mastery is. Here's how you turn what you do into a need to have. So it's like a very much a diagnostic call. It is really, really cool. I'm gonna put the link in the chat for you guys to book it in.
Amazing.
And like I said, it's not a sales call. I will never sell anything on that call. It's just genuinely 15 minutes with me directly, me looking at your messaging and looking through everything. Follow me in Substack. And then the other thing that I have is, let me just put it in here, is that I have a 20-minute video. I put it in the chat there that kind of walks you through some of the things that we talked about right now. So
Good to know.
I go deeper into what power buyers are, how to make sure that we're speaking to people who are ready to invest. I talk
Phenomenal.
about what the angle of mastery is, giving really specific examples of like how do we come up with your angle and what are some of the typical mistakes that people are making around that? And the third thing is the need to have. What do we need to do to make what we do sound more like a need to have? So it's a quick 20-minute video, but it walks you through everything. It's at readytoinvestclients.com. So I
I was
just put the
so
link there.
generous. Everyone who's on live, you can grab those links now. We'll send this in the show notes everywhere we post this for the podcast, and we'll keep it here on Substack. Fabi, you really are just one of the best of the best of the best in this space. You're phenomenal. You're like a genuine, real deal person. I'm so grateful that we got introduced. I love when that happens. So it says, you two need to meet. And then we do. And then I ended up, you all have to hear this. I ended up at an event, like we were in Florida at an in-person event. And I got to meet Fabi after we had been virtually introduced and made a time to get together and chat and bring
Yeah,
coffee
just
on.
a few days after we met online, we met in person. I was like,
It was
didn't we
so
just talk last week?
like,
It was
wait
really
a
cool.
minute. It's such beautiful synchronicity. So I'm thrilled that you made time today because this is such important, distinctive work that gets us out of the AI sameness. It
Yeah,
gets us out of this, all you all that are doing so, like us all, we're doing so much work to make content. Let's make sure it's the right content to attract the
exactly.
right people that actually gets them the transformation they want when they're ready for it. And Fabi, I'm thrilled you're here on Substack now. I'm so happy
Yeah.
to be Substack sisters with you. And everybody, if you have not already gotten your ticket for New York City, make sure that you do. Okay, Women Starting Movements, October 6th, 7th in New York City. Make sure that you have your ticket to that so that you can join us and do this thought leader work. We're going to be talking about your, as my mentor Jem Kem says, your brand, your book, and your business. All right, so we're going to be doing great work there. Fabi, we all need to follow you. We're going to watch the video. Everyone, you're going to set up your call so that you can get out of the Ursula Mermaid mode, and into being the true, differentiated, brilliant go-to person in your industry that you already are, but that people need to know you as. So thank you so much for joining us, Bobby.
I love it. Really excited about being here, and I will see you soon. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye.